Let's talk about dihydroberberine versus berberine. Dihydroberberine is becoming so popular. It's on Twitter, everywhere. I mention all the health gurus. It's on YouTube. Everybody's either saying it's terrible or everybody's saying it's either really good. We're gonna go over all the new studies that are coming out so that you can make a really good decision for your weight loss and you don't poison yourself or get side effects. We're starting now. Dihydroberberine and berberine are both natural alkaloids. There are so many studies on berberine, but not a lot of them are high number and high quality. That's why studies like meta-analyses and systematic reviews find the high quality studies and actually look at the proven benefits. So those focus on blood sugar, cholesterol management. Those are pretty well proven, but most people Google search weight loss. So we're going to go over that specific number, and it can work really well in some people. Also studied is anti-inflammatory effects, antioxidant effects, and gut microbiome effects. So dihydroberberine is natural, just like berberine. It's a modification that's still found naturally, but is now just purified. Berberine has a harder time getting through the gut lining. So for example, dihydroberberine can be absorbed about 3 to 5 times greater rate. That means the amount of dihydroberberine that can cross through the cell lining is significantly higher. So we can take a smaller dose, pay less for supplements, take less supplements overall, and as a result have less side effects for all the unabsorbed dihydroberberine. With dihydroberberine being a slightly modified version of berberine. Now, when people think hydrogenated, they think hydrogenated oils. These are two completely different things. Berberine is an all-natural component found in a lot of different roots, such as turmeric root, golden seal. It does come naturally. A slight chemical process is used to turn dihydroberberine into one that's more absorbed. Naturally, I think there is a small percentage of dihydroberberine, but most of it in the root is found as berberine. Is that natural? I think it's still pretty natural. Is the hydrogenation itself a bad thing? No. Water is hydrogenated, for example. So if you're worried about hydrogenation, don't ever drink water again. Hydrogenated fats are something completely different. Dihydroberberine has been found to have a lot of advantages over berberine. Particularly, the number one thing that it does much better than berberine is you can take a lot less to get the exact same blood level of berberine. What that means is you can take on average about 50% less or about 1/3 less to get the same amount of quantity of berberine in your bloodstream and the same weight loss effects and other diabetes effects that we'll talk about. Some supplement manufacturers say the ratio is 3 to 1. I think the studies show it's a little bit closer to 2 to 1. But the good news is if they're the same price, you're saving about double the money. Both berberine and dihydroberberine can cross the gut lining. Once in the blood, dihydroberberine turns into berberine. The benefit is dihydroberberine can cross into our gut lining at about 2 or 3 times higher rate. So that means you can take less dihydroberberine. You can see it's almost the same thing. It just loses its hydrogen atoms when it crosses into the bloodstream. Why is this important? Anytime you take a lot of supplement, the additives, the preservatives, they can have some side effects. So if you're eating 3 times as much versus one component, then you're probably going to have a lot less side effects, a lot less reactions to these things. Here are some key points specifically. A study in 2016 in the journal Metabolism found that dihydroberberine had significantly better bioavailability than berberine. The study demonstrated that dihydroberberine was more efficiently absorbed and converted back into berberine within the body, including less side effects, and they had higher blood levels of berberine. This was written in 2016. The journal article was Dihydroberberine Exhibits Enhanced Oral Bioavailability and Beneficial Metabolic Effects. You can look that one up in the Metabolism journal. But again, is it the most detailed study? No, it was performed on mammals, not necessarily humans. Number 2 journal article is called The Enhanced Metabolic Effects of Dihydroberberine. This was published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. It showed that dihydroberberine was much more potent on glucose and lipid metabolism. What happens is after a large meal of, say, an ice cream, your blood sugar did not shoot up as much if you took dihydroberberine ahead of time. This lowered blood glucose levels and improved your blood lipid levels. That means your cholesterol, your fat. But again, this was an animal study. This was in 2011. It was called The Effect of Dihydroberberine on Glucose Metabolism in High-Fat Diet-Induced Insulin-Resistant Mice. Study number 3, reduced gastrointestinal side effect. In 2013, in the Journal of Phytomedicine, a study was performed regarding dihydroberberine showing that it caused fewer gastrointestinal side effects. So less gas, less bloating. I know with all the weight loss drugs now, I won't mention the specifics because I don't think I'm allowed to on YouTube, but you know, the injectable once a week ones, there's a lot of different ones out there now and there's new ones coming out. The problem is a lot of my patients, when they eat at like 8, 9, 10 p.m. at night, they get such bad gas and cramping at night because it slows down your digestion. That's probably the number one most common side effect I see with all these weight loss drugs is it just bloats you, your digestion's slow, it just spreads it out more. And people really suffer because they still want to eat that food sometimes, but it just bloats and almost explodes their stomach. Like I've had patients tell me they can't move for like 6 hours the next morning. Technically anything can give you side effects, but the biggest ones I see are the abdominal pain, the gassiness, and I mean, it is that food just sitting in your GI tract, essentially causing bloating and all those microbes are digesting it and creating gas. That's really what it is. Dihydroberberine, it's much lower dosage. It can help out with a lot of those side effects. That study is called the Comparative Study on Gastrointestinal Side Effects of Dihydroberberine and berberine. That's in the Journal of Phytomedicine. Number 4 study, better anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. A study in 2014 published by the Biochemical Pharmacology Journal showed that dihydroberberine exhibits stronger anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects compared to berberine, thus giving it much more broad effects. That makes sense because it's more potent, it's more bioavailable. It kind of does the same thing. It just does more of the good stuff. So that's in the Biochemical Journal of Pharmacology. Number 5 study, enhanced stability and conversion. A study by Chang in Phytotherapy in 2020, so a little bit newer journal article, found that dihydroberberine is much more stable in the gastrointestinal environment and is much more readily converted to its active form of berberine within the body. This enhanced stability and conversion contribute to its improved efficacy. So it's much more effective, it's converted well, it's relatively safe in the body, so all good things. That's in the Journal of Phytotherapy Research. So that's 5 pretty reasonable studies. Are there newer ones? Yes. Actually, there are, but they're mostly focused on berberine. But I think what these studies prove is dihydroberberine basically is berberine. It's just absorbed better in our gut and goes into your blood levels higher and turns back into berberine. People say you can't count berberine studies as dihydroberberine studies, but I would make the case that it is. Dihydroberberine essentially becomes berberine as soon as it crosses into the bloodstream. So we can assume if we know the conversion rate, it will be doing the same stuff as berberine if we just know how much is absorbed. So it's fair to use the berberine studies and dihydroberberine studies together, in my opinion. I think all the studies on berberine are essentially effective. So in my opinion, I personally have dihydroberberine available, and when I eat some ice cream or something, I've been on a big mission of cutting as well. If I eat some sweets or something, I have dihydroberberine, I take it, and it actually does drop my blood sugar levels than if I did not take it. Kind of spreads out that sugar deposition. You still get those calories, but it spreads it out. In my berberine video, it does actually show weight loss, dihydroberberine for weight loss studies. Some supplement manufacturers say the ratio is 3-to-1. I think the studies show it's a little bit closer to 2-to-1, but the good news is if they're the same price, you're saving about double the money. The first study is dihydroberberine and weight loss. The title of the study is Dihydroberberine as a Potent Modulator of Obesity and Metabolic Syndrome. This was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism in 2018. There were 100 participants. Their BMI was about 28 to 36. Unfortunately, in today's world, people think that's not bad, but technically it's still obese and you should be much lower than this for all health studies. So 100 people, the duration was 16 weeks, and people took 150 milligrams of dihydroberberine twice daily. So in the morning you take some, and in the evening you take some. Personally, I take it right before 2 large meals, and it stops that blood sugar spike, especially if you're a diabetic. So you want to be taking that. So 16 weeks, that's 4 months. The weight loss in the dihydroberberine group lost 15.9 pounds in a 16-week period. That is phenomenal. So in 4 months, you lose 16 pounds doing nothing except taking a cheap supplement that probably cost 80 bucks total. If I told you you could lose 16 pounds right now for 80 bucks, would you do it? It's probably a good deal. I'd take that. But again, it's not perfect, and sometimes these studies are a little bit overhyped. The comparison group lost an average of 4.6 pounds. The reality is one type took dihydroberberine, one didn't. They both lost weight, but the dihydroberberine group lost a significant amount more of weight. Again, you know you're taking it, so maybe you change your diet habits. That's the problem with some of these studies. The weight loss in the dihydroberberine group statistically was significant. In measurements, the weight loss, the waist circumference was a lot better. The blood sugar levels were a lot lower, and there was an improvement in blood fatty levels, so the amount of cholesterol in your blood. And the reality is no one's gonna pay a lot of money for a low-cost natural supplement, but Big Pharma will pay a lot of money for $1,000 per month medication that they wanna make available to everybody. So study number 2, dihydroberberine and insulin sensitivity. So my favorite uses of dihydroberberine are for people with high blood sugar and diabetes, which is related to body fat. The study title is Dihydroberberine Improves Insulin Sensitivity and Reduces Glycemic Variability in Type 2 Diabetes. This was published in the Diabetes Care Journal in 2017, and it looked at 75 adults with type 2 diabetes for 12 weeks. The dosage was 100 milligrams of dihydroberberine 3 times per day. So same thing as the previous study, 300 milligrams broken up into 2 or 3 dosages. The results after 12 weeks, which is 3 months, showed a 30% improvement in insulin sensitivity. What that means is they had to take their hemoglobin A1C, which is your average blood sugar level over 3 months, decreased by 1.2%, which is huge. That's actually huge, because normally like 6.5 or 6 is pre-diabetic, and that's where you start seeing those symptoms. They say you should be under 6 now, although that number is always changing a little bit. I don't know what it is exactly today or at this time of the video, but it's in that range. The comparison group, the placebo showed no significant levels, so this was compared. 75 patients overall had a significant drop in blood sugar levels. As a result, we know that's related to fat loss as well, and the study showed that as well. Study number 3, dihydroberberine and cardiovascular health. This looked at cardioprotective effects of dihydroberberine in patients with metabolic syndrome. This was published in 2016 in the Journal of Cardiology. There was 90 adults with metabolic syndrome, and the duration was 24 weeks. The dosage was 200 milligrams of dihydroberberine twice daily. So this was a higher dosage, 200 earlier, 200 later, and this was for 24 weeks. So that's a long period of time. That's almost half a year. The results showed a significant reduction in total cholesterol by 18% and LDL cholesterol, which is the bad one, by 20%. The blood pressure also dropped by 10 blood pressure points on average. There was weight loss seen, and in the comparison group showed no significant weight loss and no significant changes in blood markers. This is a clear win for dihydroberberine. Not as potent as taking one of the injectable expensive medications, but the result is clear, and it's relatively safe and relatively effective. Study number 4. This one was titled The Anti-Inflammatory and Antioxidant Properties of Dihydroberberine in Chronic Inflammatory Diseases. This was published in the Journal of Inflammation in 2019. 60 adults with chronic inflammatory conditions took dihydroberberine for 12 weeks. This was 150 milligrams of dihydroberberine twice daily, so 300 total milligrams during the day, there was a much lower level of C-reactive protein and interleukin-6. These are both inflammatory markers, 25 and 30%. There was less antioxidant enzyme activity by 35%. That's actually pretty impressive. I gotta start taking more of this stuff. The comparison group showed no significant changes in inflammatory markers or oxidative stress. So again, this is half a year, but you're talking like 20, 30% improvement in your whole body inflammation. That's unbelievable if it's true. And this is a pretty natural thing that they're not selling as a big pharma group. You know, these supplement manufacturers probably don't have the money to pay for these studies, but big pharma does. These studies further show the benefits of dihydroberberine. It has some good evidence in weight loss, insulin sensitivity, cardiovascular health, and I'm going to cheat in this video. Not really cheat because I think it's completely fair, but we know that dihydroberberine turns into berberine once it's absorbed through our gut. So essentially, the benefit of dihydroberberine versus berberine is you can take much less, like 50% less, of the dihydroberberine and get double the effect of berberine. So all the bigger studies over time of berberine, we can also count as dihydroberberine. I want to show you the specific dihydroberberine, but I think the berberine studies are even greater because we've known about berberine much longer than dihydroberberine. But now we have dihydroberberine. It's easier to make as a supplement. The cost is lower because you can take less of it. Studies on dihydroberberine are recent, so they're not as advanced as berberine, which has been studied for years. But essentially, we can think of dihydroberberine in a way that it's just a more potent berberine, as it's a slight modification of the chemical structure. A study that was very high level, it looked at about 100 plus studies that were about 8 to 12 weeks in total, found that the blood sugar on average decreased by almost 1 full A1C point. It was found to lower cholesterol as well, and it decreased the average BMI by 1.07 points in the diabetics taking it. Now, it was more popular and more potent in diabetics rather than people who are not diabetics, but it was considered to be very safe as well. Berberine is also very well studied for the kidneys. It's safe and helps with kidney health, lowers cholesterol, inflammatory markers, and was shown to be extremely safe overall. But when we look at specific numbers, what do you think it was? 30 pounds of weight loss? It's more like 5 pounds. Me personally, I don't prescribe things like Ozempic myself, but a lot of the people that I work with do in our offices. And I have seen patients lose significant amounts of weights, like 50 pounds, 100 pounds. This is not quite the extent of treatment you're going to get with something like berberine, but it is possible to accomplish these. And at the same time, medications, losing that much weight all at once could have its own side effects. And you're kind of reading that in the news right now. And going back to these diabetes studies, berberine did lower the triglyceride levels, the total cholesterol levels, and the LDL levels. So to summarize, we're looking at 100 plus studies that we just looked at in this video. Berberine, while it does help, on average, I kind of found that after about 3 months, the weight loss was in the 5 pound range, which is okay. It's better than nothing. And the cholesterol did decrease. And when I say decrease, we're talking like 5% range or so. We're not talking like 50% weight loss. We're not talking like 50% cholesterol loss. So specifically, one of the major studies was a 12-week study in 2012. When people take 3 dosages of 500 milligrams of berberine, they lost an average of 5 pounds, which is pretty good. And almost all studies did show that berberine helped lose weight and the waist circumference did decrease. But at the same time, in 2020, there was another meta-analysis that looked at even more studies, and they found some did have great results, some had medium to almost no results. And because dihydroberberine lasts longer and is more potently absorbed, we would think that lower dosages would get similar results. But no one can say with 100% certainty because the studies have not been performed. There was another group of 10 studies that found that berberine supplementation over a couple months had almost no result. Another study looked at the results for dosage. If you've taken over 1 gram or 1,000 milligrams of berberine per day, that usually had better results. If you took less, it usually did not have as good a result. So in general, taking about 1500 milligrams had better results than taking 500 milligrams. You want to take it consistently. Yes, you can take it before bed. You can take it on an empty stomach, but it can irritate you just a little bit more. You generally want to take it with a meal. Avoid the empty stomach. You might get some irritation, but that's how you lose about 5 to 6 pounds every 8 to 12 weeks, according to the studies. And the dosages for dihydroberberine are a little bit more gray, but generally recommended to take 100 to 200 milligrams per dose, and that's about 1 to 2 times per day, usually after a carb-filled meal. Start slow. These studies suggest that berberine may have a modest effect on weight loss. However, we're looking at like 5 pounds over 3 months by controlling your diet, by strength training, by doing cardio, by sleeping better. You can probably achieve significantly better results. But berberine seems to be very well studied. It does help at this point. But this is the beauty of this channel. Probably the viewers that watch this video, it's gonna be more than the 4,000 people that responded to this study. So if berberine helped you, this is huge for this channel. Tell me down below, what's your experiences? Did berberine help? Are you feeling better on it? Did you lose weight? It's really important you're helping out other people in the comments. If that helped, check out my videos on other things like turmeric, curcumin as an anti-inflammatory for potential weight loss. Check out those studies. How much berberine per day? The appropriate daily dosage of dihydroberberine can vary depending on the individual health goals, but specifically most people watch this for weight loss and lowering blood sugar levels. All the studies that I have seen take about 100 or 150 or 200 milligrams once or twice per day. So almost all the studies I looked at vary between 200 to 300 total dihydroberberine per day. This provides an effective dose to get all the results such as blood sugar control, insulin sensitivity, weight loss. This is really the way to go. These studies suggest that dihydroberberine has several advantages over berberine, including better absorption. So you need to take less to get the same effect by about 50% or 1/3. Greater metabolic effects, fewer side effects, enhanced anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. It does extremely well. These make it a much more tolerable option. So if you believe in berberine, and I think a lot of people do, then this is even better than berberine according to the studies. Why does berberine get bashed? Again, nobody really makes a ton of money off this. Check out the links that I put below. These are relatively pretty low cost supplements. Like compared to some of these weight loss drugs that are like $1,000 per month, this is potentially like 20 bucks for a month or more supply. I think it's a lot more. So it's something reasonably worth trying if you have high blood sugar levels or want to lose weight. If you want to look at dihydroberberine for weight loss, check out this video on the benefits and recommendations of choosing a dihydroberberine supplement and all the tips and tricks how to use it, including the proper dosages. Check that out right here.